All right, English 9, our first unit is going to be biographies and autobiographies. A biography is a story that you read about someone else, about their life, and an autobiography is the story you write about your own life. So we're each going to read a different book, learn some things about famous Americans, and then you are going to write your own story. You tell us about you. Tell the world who you are, okay? So I'm going to give you a quick summary of all the choices you have. You have 22 choices. And then on the Google form, which was right next to this link for this video, I want you to click on the Google form link and then choose your top 5. So what are the top 5 videos or top 5 books that you would be interested in reading to learn more about this person? So if you want to have that open while I'm talking and click on them as I go, or if you want to write down maybe on a piece of paper the ones that sound good to you and then click on those, I'm going to go in the same order that they are on the Google form. Okay? So here are your choices. First up, Maya Angelou, very famous poet, one of the most famous poets in the United States. She had a rough childhood, but she grew up to be an incredible poet. Susan B. Anthony is one of the women who fought for rights for women. You can see the picture there, votes for women, because as you may know, there was a time in the United States when only white men were allowed to vote. And so she said, not fair, and she got the vote for women. Louis Armstrong, very famous musician. He wrote his music, he played his music, and he was known around the world for his music. George Washington Carver, he actually went to college right here in the state of Iowa, and he was born into slavery. But once he was able to get away from that, when the country changed the laws, he became a scientist and he studied plants, and he is known for hundreds and hundreds of things he figured out you can do with peanuts. So if you like peanuts, or if you want to learn about someone who was born a slave and really had a change in his life later, this would be a good book for you. Cesar Chavez was born in Arizona. His parents are Mexican, and he was also a person who fought for rights for a certain group of people. He fought for rights for Latino Americans who were not being treated fairly as workers. Frederick Douglass is another man who was born a slave. He taught himself to read and write and became very famous after escaping from slavery. He escaped to the North, and he also fought for rights for people to be free from slavery. Amelia Earhart was the first woman to fly by herself across the Atlantic Ocean. So if you came from a country in Africa or the Middle East to the United States, you know how long that flight is across the Atlantic Ocean. She was the first woman to ever do that by herself in an airplane. Temple Grandin is really an interesting woman. She is a scientist. She changed the livestock industry. She did a lot of work with animals, and she had to overcome a big challenge in her life, and that is she is autistic. And a lot of people thought because she is autistic, she couldn't do the things that she has done. So this is a great story about overcoming people's expectations for you. Another woman who had to overcome a lot of challenges, Helen Keller. Helen Keller was both blind and deaf. She could not see, she could not hear. And so this is an interesting story of a woman who no one thought she would be able to do anything, and she actually became a really famous author, and she traveled the world. Bruce Lee, if you have heard of Kung Fu, Bruce Lee is a man who was born in the United States, moved back to Hong Kong with his family, came back to the United States, and became very famous in movies and developed his own style of martial arts. Martin Luther King Jr., very famous civil rights activist. So you may have heard about him because we celebrate in January every year Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we do a lot of special activities in school, and we have the day off from school to honor him and other people who fought for civil rights not very long ago. Jesse Owens. He is a 4-time Olympic gold medal winner in track and field. I don't know if you can see the picture there. He's running on a track. And he's one of the greatest athletes of the 20th century. And this is a good story about how he overcame a lot of challenges. Rosa Parks is another famous woman that you may have heard of in the civil rights movement. She is the woman who sat down on the bus. You can see in the picture there, she's in a bus seat. And black people at the time were supposed to sit in the back of the bus. They separated black people from white people on buses, and she sat down on the front of the bus and said, nope, not going. And she was one of the pioneers of the civil rights movement. We see a lot of black athletes today in the NBA and the NFL, and this man, Jackie Robinson, is one of the reasons why, because he was one of the first black athletes. He was the first African American in baseball, and he paved the way for a lot of athletes today. Sacagawea, Native American woman who helped people who were exploring. You can see there the map. She helped people find a path through the western part of the United States before that was explored. And she did it all with a baby on her back, if you can believe it. Sonia Sotomayor, you can say this isn't who was, this is who is, because she's still alive. She is a current Supreme Court justice in the United States. And she is the first Latina Supreme Court justice. Nikola Tesla is an immigrant who worked with Thomas Edison. If you've heard of Thomas Edison, he worked with electricity. He wanted to figure out all the things that could be done with electricity before it was common. Now we just walk in the house and flip a switch. But we would not have that had it not been this man who moved to the United States and helped invent electricity or figure out how to use electricity. Sojourner Truth is another woman who was born a slave. She gave herself a new life and a new name, and she fought for the rights of blacks and for women. Harriet Tubman is another woman who escaped slavery, and then she risked her life to help other people to do the same. She ran something they call the Underground Railroad, and that doesn't mean a real railroad that trains go on. It means a path that people took to escape slavery, to get out of the South and into the North so they could be free too. And she also acted as a spy during the Civil War, so she's pretty awesome. The Tuskegee Airmen, this is actually a group of people. This is a group of African American pilots who fought during World War II. So they had to overcome a lot of racial prejudices about what black people could do, and they became very famous for their heroics in the war. Almost done. 2 more. Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was also a slave who taught himself how to read and write, and he became a teacher and a speaker, and he told people about why slavery is wrong and why everyone should be treated equally. And finally, Laura Ingalls Wilder. She traveled across the United States before there was anything here, like in the whole state of Iowa. It was just like grass. And she came through the state of Iowa and went on to South Dakota and Minnesota. Somebody's staring in my window. And she wrote a series of books when she got older about her childhood experiences. So that's it, 22 choices. So you can go through and you can click on the ones that you like and see what you would like to read. As you can see, I tried to pick books that I thought would be really interesting for English learners, because all of these people either came to the United States as immigrants or had challenges that they had to overcome based on their skin color or based on the fact that they were women instead of men. And so I hope that you will really choose somebody who you think you would connect to and who you'd really like to learn more about. So you're going to be reading this book and you're going to be answering some questions as we go, and you're also going to be writing your own story. So I think this is going to be a really fun unit, and I hope you will enjoy it. And please fill out your top 5 choices and submit that form to me so I can get you a book. Whichever book I send home with you will be yours to keep. So you don't have to worry about sending that back anytime later. That'll be yours It's my special gift to you. So pick something good, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.